Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast. I am your host, Luke Nesler. Hey, things are starting to come back to life, it seems. It's super exciting news that the Safe to Race toolkit that the race leadership team at Esports has developed seems to allow some signs of normalcy to be coming back. Pretty excited. This weekend is a ride day at High Point, Mount Morris, Pennsylvania, which for those that know, we are located here in Morgantown, West Virginia, home of the Racer X offices and just down the road from High Point. So I hope that you're able to get out and ride this weekend. I hope you're staying safe. I hope things continue to get better for everybody listening to this show. And hopefully this show has provided you guys with some entertainment, as there hasn't been much else going on. Hey, a couple of really quick things. We are looking for a graphic designer, somebody that specializes in more t-shirt oriented designs. If you're a freelancer, if you've just got a hidden talent that you've never told anybody about, well, now's a really good time. We are working on some brand oriented material here at Impakt Results, and we're looking for talented folks. So if you're somebody that has the skill to pay the bills and would like to learn more about the opportunity that we have, I encourage you to shoot me an email. You can do it at question@motomarketingpodcast.com. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. Do luke@thinkimpakt.com. We'll shoot it right to my main email. It's luke@thinkimpakt.com. thinkimpakt.com. Also, I find this hard to believe, but you know, it is what it is. There are some people that still have never subscribed to Racer X. And if you might be one of those people, my friends at Racer X reached out and told me about a deal that they have going on right now that is just ridiculous. And it makes it easier than ever for you to give it a shot. Right now, until June 10th, you can get 3 issues for $2.99. That is print and digital. Or if you're like me and you bounce around, you travel a lot, and sometimes you forget the magazine, it's really nice to have the digital subscription. You can get 3 issues for just 99 cents. Now, that is digital only for 99 cents, or if you'd like print and digital, to give them both a shot and see how it fits into your routine and read the amazing stories that Davey and Mathis and Weege all write for you. You can get both print and digital for $2.99. Again, that's going to be running until June 10th. You can get that by going to RacerXOnline.com/subscribe. Check it out. I still subscribe. I have since I was 12 years old. Even though we do these podcasts, I pay for my subscription. You know why? Because the content and the material that they have has never let me down. It's always interesting, and I just enjoy it, and I think you will too. Hey, speaking of enjoying it, we've got an episode today that I do believe you'll enjoy. I was really excited to have my guest on. We're talking to Stefy Bau. Now, many of you might be like, man, that name is really familiar. And some of you may be like, I know exactly who she is. Arguably the GOAT of professional women's motocross racing. She is the first in the modern era of Supercross, first female to qualify for a main event. Stefy is just a rock star. She's got such an interesting story. We dive into it today. She's continuing to blaze the trail and pave new paths for the motorsports community, and she's doing it now in the esports realm. So super interesting conversation that we have with my guest today, Stefy Bau. I hope you enjoy, and let's dive into the conversation with Stefy Bau.
Welcome to the Moto Marketing Podcast, presented by Racer X, the podcast for moto industry professionals, entrepreneurs, and riders. If you want to grow your brand and business in today's digital-first world, you have to know how to turn a stranger into a fan, turn a like into a customer. You have to know how to turn attention into dollars. This podcast is dedicated to keeping you in the know on real marketing tactics that work in the moto world so that you grow your business and help grow the sport. Get ready to learn from the very same marketing experts trusted by Racer X, Lucas Oil Pro Motocross, GNCC, and NBC Sports. They'll help you navigate the world of digital marketing for your moto brand. This is the Moto Marketing Podcast. Presented by Racer X.
All All right, welcome back, everybody. As promised, we've got a really exciting guest for you today. All of my guests are exciting, but I've got a very unique guest that I'm honored and excited to have on. We're going to talk about something that is an ever-changing, evolving, new aspect to our sport. It is the esports side of it. And I've got somebody special that a lot of you will know the name. And I'm joined today by Stefy Bau, somebody that for most of you needs no introduction. She's a multi-time champion. She is the first woman to race Supercross in what we know as the modern day Supercross, and just the list of accolades that Stefy has stacked up, not only in her athletic career, but now in her business side of her career it's astonishing. So I met Stefy here recently on a conference call that I was on, and was like, man, I got to have her on the show, and reached out, and Stefy, you said, absolutely, let's jump on. So I appreciate you joining us on the show today, and looking forward to hearing more about you.
Thank you so much, Luke. It's a pleasure to be on.
So you are, when I first got into the sport and started following the sport, you were really at the pinnacle of your career, and you've won several championships all over the world, and you've done some really unique things. You've raced against the guys in Supercross, and just one thing after another, kind of for somebody that might be newer to the sport and not as familiar with you as others. Can you give us kind of a rundown of your athletic career before we dive into really what you're doing in the esports realm right now?
Yes, for sure. So I'm originally from Italy, and I had a very big dream since I was very little. And my dream was to become a professional racer for motocross and supercross in the United States of America. I said that to my parents when I was 6 years old. And of course they say, yeah, whatever, kiddo, go out and play. But I ended up actually just doing that. So I raced motorcycle. I started at 4 years old and riding for fun. And then at 6, I entered my first race. And first race in my life with no experience. My parents are not riders, so they are fan of the sport, but not riders. But first race of the year, I finished third overall with all the little boys. And then I won every races that year. It was 1983. So now you know how old I am. And then from that, I never stopped. So I got to win Italian titles. I compete in European races with the men. And then in the year 1999, I made the switch to come into the United States of America to follow my dream. Since then, I was able to win 2 titles for the Women National Championship, the Women WMX. And then we were considering the World Cup and the World Championship for women. I won 3 of those. And then I raced Supercross, in the year 2000. I did 4 events back then. It was very intimidating, scary, and exciting at the same time. And then I raced the national, and I qualified in the national at Butts Creek in 2002. So that was a very cool highlight of my career. And then, keep putting those nails in the coffin and show the world that the women can do things in male-dominated industry if they really put their head to it. Then in 2005, unfortunately, I had a very bad accident where I destroyed both of my ankles. And so much so that doctors immediately wanted to amputate both of my legs. And with the spirit of a true athlete, I said, no way, that's not going to happen. So I fought for it. And I do have my legs. Of course, their mobility is a little bit compromised, but, I have my legs, I have my smile, and it took a long time, but I'm here to tell the story with a smile on the face.
So we share a few passions, obviously business and the sport of moto, but something that you've been heavily involved in. I assume a lot of the reason because of kind of your accident leading you down this path was just the sport of e-biking. And it's we were talking before we jumped on that I have the EMTB team that races in the GNCC circuit, and you played a major role a few years ago in introducing Tim Cotter and his team to the sport of e-biking, and it's something you're passionate about as well to this day, correct?
Yes, absolutely. I was lucky enough to be at the right time and the right moment to jump on this opportunity, and I was offered a position as a CEO of an electric bike company. and managed that company for the United States for a few years. And I saw the bridge between moto and e-biking. And I am an avid rider. I ride EMTB often. Yeah, part because of the injury, but also because they're so much fun. And Class 1 e-bikes, to me, like are something that everybody should try, before making an opinion for sure.
Right.
And yes, then I came to team and I say, hey, the AMA rules now allows e-bike, in GNCC to be able to survey the curves. Why we don't turn this into something fun and add the class to it? And we did a pilot program the first year, and then it took off. And team and the Coombs family say, yes, let's add this to our program. So it was fun.
I think it's unique with, as you kind of transitioned out of, being an athlete to pushing yourself in the business side of things. It seems like a lot of what you've done has been on the kind of the cutting edge of where industries are. E-biking, cutting edge. It's not even accepted in some circles. And then now really where you're at in the esports side of things, a newer space, and in some eyes a controversial space, a really unique, just an awesome thing that's going on in all kinds of different industries. It's now making its way into moto. Introduce us to what you're doing in the esports space today.
Yes, well, I do think that I do get involved with creative ideas at the beginning, probably because of what my career made me into it. Like coming from Italy, like I said, a little girl, they had this dream, being the first one doing things, like I'm very much prone to discover new things to make the sport better. So I created about a year ago InIt Esports, which is an esports agency that creates esports tournament. And my passion being in off-road motorcycling, I started to evaluate the opportunities to how to get esport into two-wheel off-road racing. I have two partners on my company, and the two partners, one is my sister that is in Italy, and she comes from the MotoGP world. And then I have Claire, that she is in the UK, and she comes for the Formula One world. So between my background in off-road motorcycle, supercross, motocross, and MXGP over there in Europe, and MotoGP from my sister and Claire with Formula One, we have a very big network and opportunity to leverage what we have learned, in this ecosystem. So for the people that they don't know what esports are, I'm going to dive in a little bit. So esports are considered tournament online for video games. They have been around for quite some time in regards of games that they are more like fantasy games, let's call it like that. So much so though that the game has evolved in the way that the game itself is able to create a full-on engaging experience for people watching the game. So like a year ago, there was a League of Legends, which is one of these fantasy game, final at the Met Stadium in New York, where we race a supercross, and over there they had a full-on sold-out stadium, and the 15-year-old kid that won the tournament was awarded $3 million. So it is a huge industry. It's very big. Sports just start understanding that. So in regards to motorsport as a whole, we have Formula One that started to dip their feet in, 3 years ago, MotoGP a couple years ago. And they created, those events where gamers can participate in, and pretty much is the first time they will be able to ride on a simulated track, like otherwise they might not have the possibility to do. So because of the pandemic, and the situation that we are living right now you have a lot of sport looking into this. FIFA, it's creating the esports championship, and the NBA is doing that, the NHL is looking into it. So me being part of the motorsport world, and I've started this, already a year ago, we are ahead on creating all of this within the sport of motocross and supercross. So it's very exciting.
So with InIt, is it something, would a decent comparison be kind of you guys are to esports, what MX Sports is, as far as a promoter for, traditional motocross? Or do you guys consider yourselves the promoter of different series, or do you kind of help people put this, bring an idea to the table and put it all together in addition to just promoting it? Kind of walk us through how that works.
Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated than that, because you have way more components into making a successful esport tournament than just, organize it. Like for once, the game has to be appealing to the audience. And right now there is a lot of games out there that they are great, to play online within friends, but you lose the whole opportunity to have people watching the game. Which is kind of like what's happening right this second, with the online tournament from MX Sport and MXO Sport. It's great, but nobody's watching that. Only the people that they are riding and participating, it's great, like they are having a blast, but there is not the component to watch it. So to bring the sport to the fans. So we have to have the games that are capable to do that. And then you have to have the promoters of the real series that is interested in promoting this, because in reality, it is a sort of a bridge, because with this sport, a regular sport, you have the opportunity to bring the real sport. So like MX Sport championship into the gaming community, and the other way around, bringing all of these people that they are at home, that they wanted to experience or just enjoying to play a motorcycle game into the real sports. So we are that part. We are the company that sits in the middle to create the bridges, and making both ecosystem understand the advantage for to work with each other, and also creating, the tournaments with the games they are ready for that. So it's sort of like being a promoter, but the relationship between an esport, as you say, called promoter, like could be InIt, and the real promoter, it has to be solid to be able to make it worthwhile, because you put in effectively two words together.
Got it. So I want to take a step back really quickly and kind of learn why esports. Is it something that did you get into gaming maybe after your injury and you just enjoyed it? Did you not have any relationship to gaming and just saw the business opportunity? How did you go down that path?
Well, there is one part that it's funny, because I was part of 2 video games when I was on top of my career. So that's my initial, part into the gaming industry. But beside that, it was actually just an opportunity. As I said, I'm a person that tries to look a few steps ahead, and try to see what it can be good to bring into the motorcycle ecosystem to grow the sport. And, I proved it with the e-bike, so bringing people into the sport through that venue, and now esport. And because they are growing so much, and, I felt like that there was a void into the off-road world, on this. So I jump on it. I surround myself with a good team, we have the technical side cover as well to do this, because we have hired top people in this ecosystem, and we are ready to go. So, it's very exciting.
Where do you see just the sport of esports really going maybe after? So we're right in the middle of the coronavirus, the COVID-19 pandemic, as of recording this conversation that Stefy and I are having, and you start to see things like NASCAR and doing the iRacing, and even Brian Deegan has done his own little with the Generals Cup, and MX Sports and Rainbow and others are putting their series on. Do you think that this is an opportunity to open the eyes of those that might not have considered what this industry is and what this sport is, that can help the whole esports phenomena grow after this? Or where do you kind of see it going post the COVID-19?
Well, absolutely, it is an opportunity for the sport to get involved in esport as a whole. Simply because, like I said, we have the possibility to bring the people that usually are at home, to be exposed to a sport. My big vision here is to really create opportunities where you are able to make a a kid that is at home and maybe doesn't have the financial capability to buy a motorcycle right now, like to be able to get into the sport, but getting him the attention of the sport through a video game, and then get them to become as good to do it digitally, then there is so many activation that can be done to bring them to the races. Because this sport is not digital only. What we are able to do and create, not now because everybody is at home, but the step is to do online esport event with live event.
Yes.
So, then you close that bridge, you close that gap. So you have this whole demographic that is at home on playing video game and watching stuff on stream, all the time, that you can get them to become a real part of the sport. But taken from a grassroots approach, there is not buying the motorcycle as the first step, but it is actually buying a video game to get, fascinated with the sport as a whole. So it's very interesting how that can become a transaction, to grow the sport from a different fan base.
I think that's an awesome approach to it that I think that maybe not everybody in the esports industry would have. And I think it's awesome that you do have it because you came from the actual sport, whereas maybe some folks have never tried it. They're just in the gaming industry and they don't understand the sport of cycling or the sport of moto or the sport of kart racing or whatever it is. You are an athlete and you can kind of see how it can bring somebody into that sport. You had mentioned something a few minutes ago that when determining what game would be really good for a tournament, there's a lot of different things. Do you think that esports tournaments will maybe change how certain games are developed to where I think maybe the easiest way for me to explain this is a lot of the car racing games and with the whole iRacing league, when you're watching that, it almost looks like you're watching a real NASCAR on a track. Motorcycle racing, a lot of the moto games are getting to where it's looking really realistic. Do you think going all the way back to the video game developers that they're going to start maybe developing games with having in mind what it needs to look like to be appealing to somebody watching rather than it being unrealistic and crazy? We helped NBC promote a video game. It was I've blanked out. It's soccer with race cars hitting the ball.
Oh, Rocket League. Yes.
So we promoted that and it was massive. But to me, I'm like, that is the most crazy, unrealistic looking game I've ever seen. Not the same at all to what you're promoting. It has to look realistic. So how do you feel that might play out?
Well, there are a few different things you touch right now, I'm going to dive in a little bit. So as far as a realistic game, absolutely. I mean, in sport, what people want is to feel like that they are watching a real sport. So publisher on top of that, like on every business, you have to create what people want. And that is what people want in these times, especially in regards for sports. They want to see the thing that is just like, watching the real event on TV. So that is in the work, and it's working, and it's happening. It's happening, and we are very close for our off-road sport to be able to involve that very quickly. Another thing is you talked about the NASCAR video, the NASCAR events. For cars, there is a possibility to use a simulator. So a simulator will, for you as a gamer, will give you really the feeling that you are in that car. So the car video games, they are taking on a lot, even from people from other sports wanting to play that because of the experience. So the feeling is very similar to what you can experience when you are in the game. So much so, I have to tell you that there are people that they are gamers, that they are so good on the simulator, that now race team are hiring them to become real drivers.
Wow.
Yes. It's amazing the connection the games is bringing into the world right now. It's out of this world and very exciting at the same time. For motorcycle, it's a little bit more complicated because, of course, especially off-road motorcycle, it's very difficult to replicate, a jump or a braking bumps or, a rut or cross rut, all of that, that's something that it's physics that is applied when you actually are on a motorcycle, and there is no simulator yet that is capable to do this. Maybe with time we'll get to that point, but right now you will not have the same experience of a car game, but it's going to be close enough. It's like I started playing, of course, since I've been in this industry, and it is fun. It's very the experience is very close. It's not the same, but it's very close, and it gives an opportunity now, especially in the time in that we are nowadays with the COVID-19. For riders even to have a little bit of an outlet, instead of being home and not be able to race and not do nothing, now they can play the game, they can put themselves in the game, and have fun in that direction. So it's very interesting. And in regards to Rocket League, I want to put a point on that. You said it's definitely unrealistic, and it's definitely a crazy game. But the very powerful thing about that game is that it's so simple. It's so simple. Everybody can turn it on and play it. It's car playing soccer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so simple. And that's what the power of video game is like if you can create something that people can engage with without, having to have a PhD to learn how to do this, then you become pretty much a product that can go in every household. Yeah. So it's not realistic. It's not something that is happening, but it's going to be the game that's going to be in every school, like when the schools are starting reopening, you'll see.
I was blown away how powerful the game was from the standpoint of that was my first introduction to, okay, esports is here. Number one, when NBC Sports wants to put their name on something and broadcast it. And we were in charge of the digital marketing for that specific tournament. And when myself and my entire team saw how many people were engaging not only with the ads, but then as we did live promotion during the actual tournament, the amount of people that were showing up and tuning into it absolutely blew my mind. And it was something that I didn't understand. I didn't pay much attention to at the time, but it completely opened my eyes to it, which was why I was super intrigued hearing that there is a former professional motocross athlete that has now moved into that space. And I think it's happened before too. I think isn't Stefan Roncada, isn't he in the space as well as far as development of games?
Yes, he's actually part of Rainbow, and he's I don't quite know exactly what is his position precisely, but he's in the development side of creating the game. So it's very cool.
It's definitely an exciting time for it. And I think there's silver linings and everything. And I think there's multiple that are going to come out of COVID-19. And I think one of the things, it's going to be different for every industry, but I think with esports, it's opening the eyes of individuals to some things they never considered before. And I think esports is part of it. I hope that, all the tournaments that are being developed are going to be successful because it keeps people engaged and it gives them something to do in a time to where there's really nothing to do. And I think it's that's a positive thing. As we kind of wrap things up with Stefy, Stefy, you're always on the cusp of like the next big thing. Like what's next? I mean, what's something exciting that you guys are working on that you can talk about if you're able to talk about anything right now?
Well, I cannot share too many information right now, but that my passion is into motorcycling. So we are 100% focused and working right now to create a space for motorcycling and off-road motorcycling as a sport into the esport ecosystem. So I think we have the possibility, we have the technical knowledge to be able to do it. The sport needs this because it's not something that it will substitute the real sport, not at all, but it's something that will complement this for times and times again. For the same reason that I said before, it could be the first entry level to be exposed to the sport of motocross and supercross and off-road riding in general. And it's exciting. So there is a lot of things they are cooking right now, on my plate for different things. And I'm excited. I can't wait. As soon as we are able to release news, we'll let everybody know.
Absolutely. It's an exciting time. And for for those intrigued with what Stefy is doing, I encourage you to go check out the website. It's initsports.com. It's
InIt Esports.
InIt Esports.
Yeah.
Check it out. There's it's really, really, really cool, and it's not the future, it's now, and you guys are kind of on our side as far as at least there's somebody that's trying to push the envelope and develop something that, you know, us as motocrossers would enjoy, and that's, you know, I'm appreciative of that. So Stefy, I appreciate you joining us today, and I'll make sure we link up your social media and everything in the description of the show. So if anybody wants to check that out and you're driving, obviously do it after you've parked and go to the description and click on the links to all of Stefy's social and website. And I appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. I want to just jump in for one last thing. Because I am a woman that has been successful in a fairly male-dominated industry, esport is very similar. And one part of our business is to help women to become gamers. So if there is anyone out there, there is a woman motocrosser, you know, that is interested in understanding and learning, you know, how to become gamers, you know, like for maybe a career after racing, or who knows for what, you know, feel free to reach out, because for me it's important to continue legacy and helping women in succeed in sport and sport tech, and you know, like anything has to do with male dominated stuff.
For sure. I love that. That's awesome. Be sure to reach out to Stefy then. And you're obviously willing and wanting to help grow that as far as getting more women involved in this sport. So I think that's awesome. Well, Stefy, it was a pleasure talking to you, and I appreciate you being part of the show today.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed my time here with you, Luke, and looking forward for more things to come.
Thank you for listening to the Moto Marketing Podcast. If your goal is to get real, measurable results from your marketing that will grow your company revenue, then check out how Impakt Media can get the same results that they have for Moto's most iconic brands by visiting thinkimpakt.com. That's THINKIMPAKT.com. Have a marketing question that you want answered on the show? Send your questions to questions@motomarketingpodcast.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast.